Sweet in the morning. Oh Lord, it's sweet in the morning. Sweet in the morning. Nims Gay for the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute's Oral History Project. I'm Dr. Horace Huntley. We're at Miles College, April 6, 1995. Mr. Gay, I want to thank you for coming out and spending your time with us this afternoon to talk with us about civil rights and Birmingham, because we know that you were very, very prominent in the movement. Again, thank you for coming out.
It's a blessing to be here, Dr. Huntley.
Yeah. Let me just start by asking a couple of background questions. I want to ask you about your parents. What part of the state were your parents from?
My parents were born in Chocolaca, Alabama. That's in Calhoun County.
Calhoun County. That's near Anniston.
That's right up from Anniston.
Okay. Were you born in Birmingham?
I was born in Chocolaca, but they brought me away at the age of 1.
Okay, so Birmingham then is basically home.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm sure that you've gone back and forth between here and Chocolate.
Oh, yeah.
Quite a bit.
That's right.
Okay. How many brothers and sisters did you have?
It was, I had one brother and one sister, and my oldest brother, my brother's deceased, but my sister, she still lives, and she lives in Cleveland, Ohio.
Were you younger or older than your sister?
I was the youngest one.
Oh, you're the baby of the bunch. So they must have spoiled you then, huh?
No, it didn't take time for that.
Didn't take time. What about your parents? Tell me a little about your parents, your mother and father. What about their education and their occupations?
Well, my mother, she was a housewife. My father, he attended Tuskegee, but when he was coming off the farm and looking at big woods when he got to Tuskegee, he saw the wood agriculture up there, and he thought that's what he wanted to do. But he found out when that was a farm, and he found out that wasn't. So he decided that wasn't for him. So he came on to Birmingham and became a brakeman on the Louisville National Railroad. And then he brought his family to Birmingham.
Oh, so he then was a brakeman, and that's what he retired as brakeman on the railroad?
When he retired, well, when they laid off so many here in Birmingham, he migrated to Cleveland, Ohio, and he became an employee of Pharaoh's foundry there. And when he became of retirement age, then he came back to Birmingham.
Oh, okay. Tell me a little about your education. What elementary school did you attend?
I attended Jenny Shields in East Birmingham.
Jenny Shields in East Birmingham. And after that?
After that, we were the first in an urban high school because, at that time you only had Parker. And when the blacks were able to go to another school, which was Ullman, and Ullman we could only go there to the 10th. Then at the 10th grade, we'd have to go over to Parker. So then after in the 10th grade, I went on over to Parker. And I stayed at Parker like 2 months graduating from there.
Well, why didn't you graduate?
Due to the fact beyond my control, I was financially unable to do so because from 13 years on up, I put myself through school anyway.
So you were working?
I had 3 men who was instrumental in helping me go to school because at 13 turning 14, they encouraged me to go on to school if I wished to go, because in Wes Scruggs and Johnny Norris and the man called Poe, they say, we give you 50 cents a day, you go on and complete your education. So they were instrumental in helping me to do so.
Who were you living with at the time?
I was living by myself because my mother took sick and she had to go to Cleveland where my daddy was, and so I was left in the house because I didn't want to leave Birmingham.
So at 13 years old, you were living alone?
Living alone, and then my aunt eventually came over to stay with me. But what I was doing, I would go out to the Birmingham Country Club and caddy on the weekends and afternoons, and that way I was able to keep a place to stay. And then they would send me money back to help pay the rent, because the rent at that time wasn't too much. Because at that time you could get any kind of old house for $6 a month, rent. So back in those days, things were cheap. But
so you wasn't paying $500 a month to live there?
No, it's $500 a month would have bought the place.
What community did you live in?
I lived in the Greenwood, East Birmingham area. I was out there right at Stockholm Pipe and Fittings.
Okay. What did you do after high school?
After high school, my first job after high school was WJLD. I was the first announcer they had over there, and that was 52 years ago. And then after I left WJLD, wasn't making enough money there, so the radio was paying $17 a month, and the railroad was paying $25. And my wife having children, you know where I decided to go. I went to the railroad.
But tell me a little bit about WJLD. What did you do there?
At WJLD, so you're coming into the stations then. Bob Umbaugh was the chief engineer, and what you'd say then, the Bob, he did some of everything there. And by me coming in, he told me, he said, well, you have the voice of radio. So what he did, and so what he started me doing, coming in, bringing on the best Big Four and all those different quartets and all was there. And he had me doing it so frequent. I said, now wait a minute, what kind of money I get? He said, well, I get $10. I said, no, I can't do that. So they raised it to $17 a week, and then I stayed there for 3.5 months. And then I had to leave there because the station was in Bessemer over the courthouse at that time. And things was prejudiced then, as you could find it to be. Jeff Bryant, he owned the station, and they didn't want a black man to even wear a tie at that time. So he told me, say, you on radio, you gonna wear a tie? We cut, they used the word nigger. We cut their ties off, they wear it here. I said, yeah, I'm gonna cut you off too. And he said, well, now wait a minute, I thought you was a Christian. I said, so was Peter, but he cut the man's ear off for Christ.
So you made sure that you got respect.
That's right.
In the very beginning. Mm-hmm. How old were you when you got married?
19.
19. Mm-hmm. And you were then working at JLD.
No, when I got married, I started there over at 19. When I got married, I went to Louisville National Railroad. So I left out of WJLD. Well, let's see, I was working at a bakery too when I was trying to work at WJLD, because actually that wasn't the desire that I wanted to have. So I wanted to do something that I believe could help me to progress in life.
So what did you do at L&N Railroad?
I started first as a hostler helper first. That was bringing those engines from Boyles, Alabama, downtown. That's where and we had what you call a round table down there. You put that engine on that table, and you do labor to turn it around. So what we would do, we carried down there, and then they decided they wanted to send me downtown, and now I was a coach cleaner down there. That was the towel they gave us. But what we was really doing, we was fueling up those diesel engines, so it come out from coal engine into diesel then. And we'd had to ice up those cars, and then after that, I went into, with the war broke out, and you had troop men. So they deferred me there to stay there and work as helping prepare the cars for the soldiers to go backwards and forward to Ozark, Alabama, because that's where the German prison was stationed here in Ozark, Alabama, when they bring them over here.
So they would bring the engines in, and you would work in the shop in preparation of it.
That's what I would do when I was a hostler. I would prepare them,
right,
coal them up and everything.
That's right.
And then after that, after I got downtown, I didn't have to do that, because all we do, when the troop trains would come in, bringing in the soldiers, bringing in the prisoners, and bringing in whatever was going to to Ozark, Alabama, where they had all the German prisoners stationed. Then my job was to see that the coaches were serviced and all.
Okay. What do you mean by coaling them up?
When I say coal them up, say when you had those old steam engines, you run the engine up under a chute, and the chute would let the coal come down and fill up the hopper back there. That was where the fireman would get the coal in order to fire the ball up where the engine could run.
Oh, okay. What community did you live in at the time?
I was in the Greenwood, East Birmingham area.
So you still live in the same area.
Yeah.
How would you describe your community?
During that time, Greenwood and Inglenook was just separate. That's why it was called Greenwood, and Inglenook was called Inglenook, because on one side of the track was black. That's where the blacks lived, and on the other side of the track where the whites were living.
Oh, okay. So what were the occupations of people that lived in your community in Greenwood?
Most of the occupation was them. If they hadn't been, they thought it was a blessing when you was a railroad man, like my daddy was a fireman or something like that. But most of it was domestic work. They mostly would go out and work for the ladies would work in these different white people's homes. And the men, they would work around Stockholm, McWayne, and Vanderbilt furnaces and different places like that.
Well, did your wife work outside of the home?
No, she never worked.
Okay. And how many children did you have?
We had 8 children, but my oldest son got drowned when he was 7 years old.
What was your community's relationship to the Birmingham Police Department?
Now, the Birmingham Police Department relationship, though the police was just about like insurance men. If you had a shot house, a gambling place, then he would just drive through there and you pay him off. Or either a prostitute house, you just pay him off and that was it. Because some of the permanent men you have now in high positions, they used to collect money just like a police agent from different people who was, if they was bootlegging, run a gambling house, had no Saturday night fish fries and all of that. See, homebrew was bad then. See, now people have beer, but back then they made their own homebrews, they called it. Well, and so
that was illegal, so people had
illegal. So all they were doing, they was just dressing their pocket and didn't care which way. And see, that's why we used to say back those days when the police would come in to our communities, when you see that sign MUN, we said that MUN meant murder you niggas. That's what we felt that it was. You couldn't have no respect for a person who didn't have any respect for themselves.
So you didn't look at the police then as being protectors and servers of your community?
No, I looked at them as being more enemy of the community.
Oh, that's very interesting. What kind of recreation did you have in your community? Well,
what we would do, Stockholm Park was there. That's where we mostly go to play ball and various things out there. And then and when we wasn't at Stockholm, it was a big old cornfield in our community where the boys and girls would go out there and play. But what we was trying to do, and by me managing the girls' ball club and all, and the boys' ball club, we couldn't play under the lights, and we'd see the white people playing under the lights down on 10th Avenue. So I went down to City Hall and talked to Mr. Wagner. I said, Mr. Wagner, don't you realize that the park then for the white people was on 10th Avenue and 35th Street where the trucking company is now. I said, playing out there, and I said, you got some bad black folks, you got some good white folks good black folks like me who ain't gonna throw in there. But some of them might get the idea that since y'all come out here and play and you see y'all come on, drive in and out, we can't play under the lights. So then they decided to let us play under the lights. We were the first community that played under the lights. They come from Inslee and everywhere over there to play under the lights because they began to let us play.
Were there special days that you had?
Friday and Saturday nights were our days.
And every Friday and Saturday night, black people from all over Birmingham would come over there.
They come over there. The teams would have set up because some of the girls played with our teams. They become a part of East Birmingham in order to get a chance to play under the lights. I had some girls out of Inslee who played with my girls' clubs, and so we become united. And the other church club to come over to play us from Sippico and all those different places. Well, they got a chance to come over there and play under the lights, which we thought was something very interesting at that time.
Well, when you went down to talk with Wagner, was that Jabbo Wagner?
That's right.
Did you just do that on your own, or was that an organizational?
No, I did that on my own. Just whatever I thought that I ought to do. Just like when I went and read it, I just decided to say, now look, if somebody going to do it, I was always taught if you want to do something, try to do it yourself, not try to send nobody else.
Were there any type of organizations in your community at that time?
No kind of organization we had. At that time, the only thing you had at that time was the Communist Party. The Communist Party was trying to come in and take over and get the black people to come over and be with them. And the Ku Klux Klan, they was already raging. So but our parents would tell us all the time, say, now, you know what's over here, but you don't know what's over there in the communist countries. So they would tell us not to sell out, because the communist people who would come over, they would try to get us. At one time, my father in different places who was working around, different men who was playing in plants, they would come to me and tell you, so now, what you got to do is help blow these places up. But the black people would not go for it.
So the communists were attempting to
overthrow
the government.
That's right, and telling us what communism was with, how good it was for us and everything. But in the end, they wanted to really control America the way I could see it.
Yeah. Were communists then involved with any of the labor organizations?
Well, some of them they was, but undercover. But see, the main thing where the communists really began to get a hold over here was that Scottsboro case, when the Scottsboro boys, when they took them off those trains and pretend that they raped those white women and so forth, and then that gave them a chance to get a better view of what was going on.
In 1930 or so, Birmingham became sort of the southern regional headquarters for the Communist Party, and they then went from Birmingham to many of the organized, the SWC was starting to organize, the steel workers, United Mine Workers, the International Union of Mine Mill and Smelter Workers, all those were organizing. And evidently the communists were good organizers.
They were, because Mr. Hall that you read so much about, he stayed at my uncle's house so many times. When they come, he would come there.
Was this what's his first name? I can't think of his first name. But anyway, this is the Hall that ran for president on the communist ticket?
That's right.
And he stayed with your uncle. Was your uncle involved with the communists at all?
He said he wasn't, but I thought he was.
But he was a worker, though.
That's right, he was a worker.
And therefore, they usually related very closely to workers.
Okay. He's working at the Vanderbilt Funds, which later was torn down.
This, of course, we're talking about the 30s and 40s. What's happening in civil rights at that time?
Well, what was happening, the only thing you was having in civil rights at that time, you was regular, they started the NAACP, talking about the NAAC, the National Social Advancement of Colored People. And that was something we felt that was giving us a chance to really move out. So many people that work for these different white organizations and all, they said, well, if you work for that, you can't work for me. In other words, they always tried to hold you down through some kind monetary value, where you couldn't make it,
Right.
but they figured.
Were you a member of the NAACP?
Yes, I was.
In 1955, 56.
That was back there when Robert Durr was the Robert Durr he was over it at that time, and then later on, Patton and all of them come along.
Right. Well, in 1956, the state of Alabama outlawed
That's right.
the operation of the NAACP.
And when they outlawed it, that's when Reverend Shuttleworth came in with the Alabama Christian Movement for Human Rights. That's when we got a chance to start with the Alabama Christian Movement for Human Rights, was because they wanted to allow Lord, and Shuttleworth wasn't going to hear that. When Dr. Patton would tell him what was happening and talking about they done outlawed it, he said, hell away with y'all want. We gonna that was Fred's idea. So he did, and so that's where the Alabama Christian Movement was started.
It was started to fill this void that would have been left by the NAACP.
Right. And see, one way what we had a lot of people at that time was they didn't know exactly which way to start, because see, during that time, right after that, we was trying to start us a voters drive. At that time, W.L. Williams come over and helped us. People give credit to somebody else who didn't it, but in East Birmingham, W.L. Williams come over and help us to get the voters' rights set up among the people over there where they could become qualified voters. Because when I become a voter, you had to pay poll tax at that time. And they had different ways to try to keep you from becoming.
Well, when you went in to register to vote, what happened?
Well, when I first went in, they told me, said, boy, you don't want to, what you want to vote for? I said, because I'd have a right to protect my taxation without representation. That's what I feel that I'm having, but at least I can vote for what is happening. They say, you don't do it like that. So one thing about it, and I knew they told me how many questions they were going to ask me. So you had to be able to talk to them. So when they was talking to them, I said, tell you what, I said, well, I know, I want to ask you a question. I said, because I know smart white folks like you know it. So I told them, I said, I hear about Paul Revere and Midnight Riders and all of that, and I hear about the British was coming. I said, would you mind telling me a little something about that? I said, I heard where they said, where Patrick Henry said, what is gentleman wish, what does have his life so dear and peace so sweet to be purchased by the price of change of slave, forbid Almighty God, I know what course others may take, give me liberty. I said, was white folk ever a slave? He said, I ain't got time to talk to you, go on, you pass. So that's the way.
That's the way you got.
That's the way I got in there. And then,
was that the first time that you'd gone?
First time, and then my wife went back the next week.
And
they
then
passed.
did she pass?
Yeah, I didn't have no problem.
That's all right. What year was that? Do you remember?
I can't tell you exactly what year. But
this was right at the time in the 1950s.
Yes, it's right in the 1950s, close to 60.
As the movement is starting to develop
into what we know that we wanted to do.
What was your role in the movement?
Well, when the movement was started, all of us was trying to want to do something, but by me working with music as much as I had, me and Mamie Brown and I, we were the first directors of the Alabama Christian Movement for Human Rights. And then Barnard Sneed and Carlton Reese came on the scene. And we always wanted to be able to have the best qualified person for the job. That's what we was trained to do in the beginning of the Civil Rights Institute. Let the man who could do the job do it, and we be followers. So that's how Carlton took over as director of the movement choir. And but in the beginning, it was Nathaniel Lee, and John L. Frazier, and Mrs. Palmer were the musicians, and Mamie Brown and myself was the director.
What was your background in music that you would have directed at that time?
Well, Dr. Henry over to Parker had turned around and taught us Negro spirituals and music as it was supposed to be. And then I went with Streeter And he taught us whole notes. That's what note singing and all of that. And so, and the rest of it just was a gift from God.
Did you sing within the gospel choirs?
Well, during that, after singing with the Parker High School choir, then we went with the singing 40s of at the L&N Railroad. See, all these places wanted to keep black folks satisfied. And so we were singing for them under Dr. Whetstone. And after Dr. Whetstone, we started singing around with Arthur Love Coates and Nash them out of Evergreen Bottom. And after the Gospel Harmonettes was organized, and we were all listening to their style, which they adopted from the original, from Roberta Martin singers, we all began to sing. We formed the Gay Harmonies then. And people thought we were so good they want us to go somewhere, but we wouldn't follow nowhere. Sam Cooke and all of them used to come and sit down and tell me, man, you can do this and you can do that. But it was not my desire to move, so we stayed right here in Birmingham.
So you had the Gay Harmonettes?
We were the Harmonias.
Harmonias.
The Harmonias. In fact, we sung together about 29 years.
Sorry. Just around in Birmingham.
Well, we would go out of town, various places, Birmingham, Andalusian, various places, Tennessee or somewhere like that, but we never wanted to migrate any further because according to what they said that we could do, and everybody seemed to appreciate the style of music we were doing, because some of this music we were doing, national groups started recording it, but we never undertook to do that.
So you knew Sam Cooke?
Yeah, I knew Sam. Used to sit down at Gaston Motel and talk to Sam when he was in gospel before he went into secular music.
So your group then was sort of in the forefront
of the movement.
Right.
Of
the development of gospel music.
Yeah, we the original Gospel Harmonettes were the first, and Dr. Love Coates came on the center later. And now the first people that was attracted in Birmingham was William Blevins. William Blevins, he was the first black that ever sung on radio in Birmingham. And he would come up, although he's working for the Birmingham News, see, WSGN was a news age herald station at that time. But all black folks had to go up on the freight elevator, even in people everywhere were listening to him. And then the Gospel Harmonettes with Odessa Edwards and Mildred Howard and all of those became the Gospel Harmonettes because they had Vera, Odessa, Willie Mae, and they were the original Gospel Harmonettes. Then Dr. Love Coates joined them, and they become a powerhouse, went all over the world and everywhere singing. But all of them, see where they are, they all come back home. All of them living here. They never left the city.
Yeah. Odessa Edwards was a teacher of mine out at Winona High School.
Oh, she was something else, and she was really a fireball and a speaker.
Tell me about the mass meetings.
The mass meetings.
Movement.
We would meet every Monday night, and we couldn't hardly wait for Monday night to come. And so when something would happen, we got where we'd have to call meetings in the middle of the week. But the churches, you couldn't get in them. And some of them churches wouldn't accept you. Because now in my community, the 46th Street Baptist Church, where I was a member, was the only one that they would let you meet over there. So you still had a lot of nervousness in our homes.
So then the mass meetings were accepted in some churches, and other churches they were not accepted.
That's right.
How would you describe a typical meeting?
A typical meeting would be very hyped up, because when Dr. Reverend Shuttlesworth would come in and speak, and they were speaking the facts. And anytime you're telling the truth, the people have to accept it. And then, of course, you had the police would come in and sit in the back of the meetings, but that didn't scare nobody.
Why were they there?
They was there to try to find out what was going on, where they could go back and carry the report back to City Hall, but that didn't mean nothing.
Did you participate in any of the demonstrations?
No, but I would. I'd go to the marches. I was in a lot of the marches downtown and all of that stuff, and I was able to watch them.
Did you ever go to jail? Were you ever arrested?
No, I never was arrested because I don't know. Well, a lot of time when they say let's go, and I'll be the first to stand up, and that they never did put me on the line. I didn't know why, but eventually I found out why later on. But my two children, my son, my oldest son, Kyle, I was standing there when they washed him down the street with a hose, and my daughter, both of them were in jail at this went to Fire Park at the same time where they kept them, you know.
So you had two children go to jail as a result of demonstrating.
That's right.
Were they school age at the time?
That's right. They were.
Did they leave school?
That's right. They left school because see, one thing about it, what they would do, they would just leave school anyway. Because a lot of the teachers who were afraid, they don't want to let the children out, but the children would leave anyway.
Did you encourage your children to get involved?
That's right. I told them a scared person never won nothing.
How did other members of your family react to you and your children being involved?
Everybody was in accord with it. Oh, my daddy, when he came here, he said he decided he'd go back to Cleveland because he said down there getting on them buses drivers, they're gonna get everybody killed. So but then he eventually come around to understand what it was all about.
What church were you a member of?
46th Street Baptist Church. I remember now.
And what was the level of involvement of your pastor in your church at the time?
Well, at the church, as we come along, as the choirs and all would come up, I was minister music, working with the choirs, and in later years, I became, as now, I'm chairman of the board, but I think they should have a young chairman because what you need to do is lay a foundation for somebody else to come along. And I teach the men's Bible class there now.
So your church then was actually to open the doors for
That's
the
right.
Lord.
Reverend Hester was the pastor at that time. And he said, because we had an old chairman of the board didn't want to meet someone, so Reverend Hester said, they're going to blow our church up. Reverend Hester said, would it just be blown up? So that was all it was.
So there was some dissension within the church.
Yeah, about one or two, that's all. Everybody else was in accord.
Do you remember anything that stand out in your mind as related to the movement that you may have been involved in, that you saw happen during the movement?
Well, when they burnt the buses at Anniston, Rudolph Bailey and myself, we were one of the first to get up there, and Joe Hendricks, and I don't know who was in the car with Joe, but somebody came on. We only came to Anniston where they had the Freedom Riders, and when we got up there, the police, the highway patrolman told us that we can't go on the highway with you, but we would take you here in the city. And they want to know who was going to tell. We said, we make it better. They said, they're going to protect us. So we got some protectors to carry us, but they didn't know we was talking about the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. That's who we was talking about. And so Joe Hendricks put them on the floor of his car.
These are the Freedom Riders.
The Freedom Riders. And Bailey and myself, we went on in one car ahead of them, and they come right behind us. But if they had been thinking, all they had to do, you had to go through Pell City, all they had to do, block the road, and we couldn't have gotten through. But
where did you take the Freedom Riders after you got them back to Birmingham?
They brought them on down to Reverend Shuttlesworth. Bull Connor was ahead of him, and when he got to the church, he said, Reverend, we got them in, but the only reason he didn't stop us because they had foresight to go down 50th Street, down by Connor Street, and then come on over in Cottesville where the church was. And they had no way to catch them then. When they caught up with them, they was already there. And Bull come told Reverend he was watching, but won't protect them, but that wasn't the idea. But they just got bound. And then Of course, it's all right now, but Brother Hendricks carried them over to his house. That's where they stay.
Mm.
But during that time, you had to be very careful what you let anybody know, because you had people come to the sessions just for that.
Mm. Were these both black and white freedom riders that you picked up?
Oh yeah, there was both. There was both black and white. They had quite a few white in there. And when they got through them smoke bombs, why they threw it in there, they was about black as we was, though, but they were white.
During the demonstrations of, actually between 1960 and 1963, in 1961, the Freedom Rides, I believe. In 1962, you had the selective buying campaign in downtown.
That's right.
Can you tell me anything about
Well, see,
that?
during that time when they was trying to keep you, from going on and buying anything, of selective buying, they tried everything they could. Even, when they put the fire hoses on you and sick the dogs on you, down out there on 6th Avenue, when the firemen turned the hose on it, and Bull was telling them to turn the hose on them, we prayed, and Billups was sitting there praying. And only God could keep that water from coming. The firemen was trembling more so than we were, because the water would not come out of those hoses, although they turned them on. And then when we got through praying and went back across the street, the water come everywhere. Now, why the water didn't run, I don't know. It had to be someone bigger than you and I that kept it from running.
This was as a result of the children
marching
out of 16th Street into.
We left out. We left from New Pilgrim Baptist Church and went over across down there in the park on 6th Avenue to have a mass prayer on account of they's putting children in jail and discriminating against us in every way. And we knew the power of prayer, because if it hadn't have been the power of prayer, a lot of us wouldn't have made it.
Right. Well, after all of this, what benefits do you think your family, the community realized as a result of the movement?
Now, realize that after the result of the movement, there's some negative and there's some positive. The positive things is for me, for instance, after I got through demonstrating, when being one of the first black managers in Blue Cross, it was because of the movement that we got an opportunity for those jobs. Although we began to see, like my daughter now, she's one of the tax assessors at the Jefferson County Courthouse. She wouldn't have had the opportunity if it had not been for the movement stepping out. See, some people say, well, it would have been anyway. Well, that God intended, God intended to it, but he intended for you to get off and do something yourself. So that is the way that has actually happened in a lot of positions that we have that we can do. At least you get a chance to meet the man on equal basis.
So were you one of the first managers for Blue Cross Blue Shield?
Yeah, I was one of the
first black
managers. I was one of the first. After we had about 2 come in there for token, and then what they wanted me to do was they really, in a way, had to make me a manager, because they, Mr. Chamberlain, when they put the inserters in the Blue Cross, and I was standing around and he was just showing me how you do it, but they didn't have no intention of a black man running it.
What are the inserters?
That's where you put what they call it, inserts your rate changes, and also they insert your checks or whatever has to go out in the envelope. You have 4 to 5 stations there. In one, you put a card, then you put a letter, and the other one, you might enclose a check. And at the end of it, an envelope opens up and it automatically puts it in there. Then you run it on through and it's stamped, it's ready to go. And so by me being able to, they first couldn't find nobody to run it, because the white fellow who was supposed to run it, he messed up and wasn't able to run it, and they had to get a rate change out, which was 100,000 policyholders, because Blue Cross had most of the holders in Alabama. So what he did, he come and asked me, could I do it? I mean, Mr. Gentry was saying he didn't know nobody could do it. He said, you know it? I said, no. He said, well, I guess we're gonna lose it. Mr. Mann didn't want to, Mr. Singer, one of the presidents coming. And I said, I could do it. He said, I was playing with him, but I wasn't playing with him. I could do it. And so he had me to do it. And I was able to run 95% of the letters without even having to hang up. Then he wanted me to do it. I said, no, I will not do that. Not for the same salary that you're paying me. So what they decided they would do then, they'd make me a Spec 10. They'd rather make me a specialist rather than make me a manager.
What year approximately was that?
Oh, that was approximately, I reckon I run as a specialist from about 69 to about 80.
So this, in fact, is as a result of the movement.
As a result of the movement. Then after, so all of that helped me along because then they didn't find out that I was as active as I was until it was too late. And
do you think that if they had known that you were active, would you have had a job?
Really, seriously, I don't believe that I would have, because the thing about it, always being able to meet a person with a smile and treat them like you want them to treat you, that helped me to be able to meet a man and meet him on his same basis, and then hate him for the things that I know that he would done that was detrimental to my welfare. But so anyway, so they thought, I guess I was one of the good old boys.
You said 2 of your children went to jail. How long did they stay in jail?
They stayed in there 4 days. One of them stayed 5.
And you actually saw your son hit with the
water hose. It rolled down the water hose just like.
What was that like, seeing your son?
That is the time you have to really control yourself, because it wouldn't have been nothing to went up beside those firemen and police's heads. I figured we could have won that battle with violence. But see, there's a hereafter, that tomorrow you got to start with the same thing.
So, but you had to have a lot of self-control to see your child hit with the water.
More so than ever then.
Was that the hardest thing for you to do during the?
That was one of the hardest things to accept. Although sometimes getting the children out of these different schools, carving all of them and bringing them over there, but again, a demonstration, that wasn't no problem. We just do that anyway because James Bevel needed help. But one thing about it, the communities were more together then. And you didn't find you find more people, I feel, today afraid of their jobs and their welfare than you found people back then.
You find more today that are afraid of their jobs?
That's right.
Afraid of losing their jobs?
That's right.
Than you did at that time?
That time. That's my opinion. Because see, that's my opinion, because you go into so many establishments and things where people are trying to do something. What do you find? You can find us selling each other out. Just from position, what they think is position monetary value. When I feel that each and every one, if you got something that if you're right, stand on right. And reach out and touch somebody's life, and that same touch will come back to you.
How do you think the movement has changed over time?
It's changed because it don't have the strength or the willpower of the people. Anything you have, the people has to be a part of it. There's strength in number. And so many of the young people today, they think they got it made. All they want to do, a lot of them now, we have a lot of young people who is trying to educate the head and sanctify the heart, but you find so many that's not. You find so many young people that think because they can ride around in loud cars and all of that stuff and put a piece of jewelry around their neck, that's the answer. And the parent, in my opinion, the reason the children is not doing no more than they are is because the parent who came along in my day and afterwards, they're trying to relive the life that they didn't live. And see, anytime you don't live a decent life in front of a child, the child is not going to live a decent life in front of nobody else. Because People ask me a lot of time, how come your children has never been in any trouble? I said, it's not my children in the first place, they're God's. And when you let them know that and let them know that He's the only one who can do anything for you, and don't let them run you, then you'll be successful in keeping them from doing what they should have done. Don't give yourself the credit because it's not you.
Do you ever remember any of the people who were associated with those that guarded the various homes?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. John L. Lewis. He was right there when he was one of the ones threw the bomb from up against Bethel Baptist Church when it was blown up. And you had
Colonel
Colonel Stone. Colonel Stone was there, but those guys were the ones who throwed it away. And this other guy, he was up there all the. His name won't come to me right now. Me and him meet each other all the time.
But you are familiar with those guys who were.
Yeah, me with most all of them because I was at every meeting.
But you were at every mass meeting.
Every mass meeting.
Never missed a Monday night.
Didn't miss the Monday night. Look forward to the Monday nights and was trying to learn what can we do to help the cause.
Is there anything else you'd like to add that we really hadn't dealt with today?
Now, that's the only thing that I would add that we haven't dealt with today is now we know what the problem is. Now let's do something about it. We need to eliminate the problem. The problem now is we have lost strength as people. I won't say black people, as people whole, we have lost strength. We need to come together and progress as America should and stop trying to fight the Civil War all over again.
What do you mean by stop trying to fight the Civil War all over again?
All right. When I say about fighting the Civil War all over again, you got the white man still trying to push you back because he feels that you're inferior to him, and you know that you're not, and you retaliate by doing something that is detrimental to you and him, and that way nobody is doing anything. In fact, we are holding each other down. In America, everything you see now, that's why it's going out of the country and going to other people, because we has become greedy and I think we have an ego crush.
An ego crush.
That's what I feel as I go about from day to day and see so many people and so many things, and sometimes not doing this old time gospel WYE radio. So I do that on the weekend from 5 to 8 because we have turned around and we've let everything that we have. We're trying to let the Negro spirituals go. We're trying to let the folk songs go. We're throwing everything away. Even when you used to come to colleges, you know you was going to find the history of music there. You don't find it any longer.
Oh, there's one other thing I want to ask you. You mentioned that L&N supported gospel singing. Did you say that?
They had a choir. They had a men's choir with W.W. Whitstone directing it. Reverend Sherlock Fell, all of us was a part of that group. And that was the plant. They supported that.
But did other businesses, other plants have choirs as well? Quartets?
Sipico had one, and I don't know whether Stockham. Yes, Stockham did have one because that was giving different activities for you to do to keep you satisfied. See, the white man thought then if you was in church, you was good. If you was singing spirituals, you were gonna do it wrong. But see,
so you say that's part of the pacification program.
That's right. They're just like you. They was just putting a pacifier in your mouth, like you put a pacifier in a baby's mouth.
So they sponsored singing groups and they sponsored baseball teams.
Yeah, that's right.
And this is all part of that program that you feel is part of the pacification program.
That's right.
Well, Mr. Gay, I certainly appreciate your taking your time out today.
It was a blessing to be able to come out, Dr. Hundley. And maybe one day we'll be able to see the brighter day ahead. I know it's a brighter day ahead, but the main thing, where can we grab on and stop dividing, because we can't conquer.
Thank you very much.
All right.
I appreciate you taking the time.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Sweet in the morning, oh Lord, it's sweet.